The lazy soul always craves and is never satisfied. The lazy soul is never full. The lazy soul is always wanting. But the diligent hand, the diligent soul will be made fat. And this is where we find ourselves. We have to be those that are willing to do the hard things day in and day out to get better, to get stronger, that we might grow. I knew a man that told me he used to be a bodybuilder. I must have rolled my eyes or made a face at him because he corrected me very quickly. His arms were about this thin and his legs were about this thin. You see, he had been in a wheelchair for a time. He used to be a bodybuilder. He used to be strong and powerful. He showed me pictures. He was one of those guys that was all oiled up and flexing on stage and winning big trophies. And then one day he got drunk and he was out in the woods with his buddies fishing, and in his drunken stupor he said, "Hey, I'm going to go off the high dive." And he landed in a little pool of water and broke his neck. And because of that, the muscles all atrophy. They stopped using them. And you know how muscles are. If you don't use them, you lose them. And so he grew weaker and he grew smaller. And he needed people to do physical therapy with him. And even then, he looked like a shadow of his old self. If we're not diligent to use our muscles, we'll end up losing them. In Proverbs chapter 1, verse 32, it says, "The complacency of fools destroys them." And I see many of you guys love Jesus Christ. And I'm so thankful that at this church, many of you, we got to do your weddings, we got to baptize you, we got to pray with you at the altar, we got to send you to youth camp and see you meet God genuinely. But my concern is that you don't level out. You don't say, you know what, I'm not going to hell, my family's not going to hell, I'm not an addict, I'm not doing the things I used to do, my life is pretty good, I'm good here. Woe to those that are at ease in Zion. In 2 Samuel, there's a story of the Jerusalem when the Jebusites ruled it. And they were so complacent because the walls were so big and it was an impregnable city for hundreds of years. And when David came with his mighty men to conquer it, they laughed at him. They said, "We don't even have to watch the roll. We could just roll rocks down on you. There's nothing you can do." And David's men found a way and they conquered the city. Why? Because the city had become complacent. When Saul died, there was a civil war between David's men and Saul's last remaining son, Ishbosheth. And they went to war for 7 years, but the war ended when Ishbosheth, the last son of Saul, who was the king of those 10 tribes, when in the middle of the day, when he should have been leading the troops, in the middle of the day, he should have been organizing supplies. You know what he was doing? He was taking a nap. And some of his own men got so fed up with his laziness, they beheaded him. And they brought the head to David, and that ended the civil war. It was the complacency. It was that thought, well, I'm good enough. Look at Luke chapter 12. It's a stirring story of a parable. A master leaves, and he leaves a manager in charge, but the manager doesn't relay the responsibilities to the workers. And then all of a sudden, the owner comes back, and he looks at all the things undone. And he looks at that derelict manager and says, "Get over here." And they beat the life out of the guy. They whip him and they cut him asunder. And everybody's in shock and all like, "Uh-oh, what's going to happen to us?" And then he calls for the servants. And they said, I didn't know I was supposed to sweep. I didn't know I was supposed to manage the vineyard. I didn't know I was supposed to pull weeds. I didn't know. Nobody told me. And the master said, "What, you think you're just supposed to have free room and board? Eat my food, stay in my house, and do no work?" Beat all of these men. Don't beat them as bad as you beat the manager, but make sure they get a good beating. And here's the lesson. Jesus says, to those that know, there's a higher responsibility and a harsher punishment. But even those that don't know, you should have known. You and I can't be complacent. We ought to know that there's something more that we should be doing. Today, I would challenge us to be diligent souls. They say something like 89% of high school students use AI every day for the schoolwork. 89% of you guys aren't looking in the back of the math book to check out how you do